Hi everyone, welcome to Cyber Witch, your online resource for spiritual development. My name is Orly. I am a Gnostic bishop, as well as I've been studying the occult and working professionally as a psychic for almost 20 years. A lot of the videos that I've been releasing lately have been about my learning in school as a yoga teacher, but today I'm going to take it back to when I was a teenager in university where I studied painting at first, and then I switched my major into studying video art and how my work in the occult and witchcraft greatly changed and inspired and helped my ability as a visionary artist to see into other worlds and to be able to articulate that. So this video is going to help give you some advice on your own occult art, how spirits and demons help us to learn visionary magic, as well as the top 10 psychomagical artists and filmmakers that influenced and inspired me when I was getting started in the occult. And then we're going to get into how my experiences in witchcraft with the demons and other entities help me as an artist. So, the first thing that I want to discuss today is the concept of discovering your personal style. Overall, witchcraft and magic is an art form, and art is expressed in a multitude of different ways. There are so many different ways to create art, and all art takes practice. So anyone can make visionary art, and skilled art usually takes practice, just like developing a spiritual practice over time. A disciplined spiritual practice will lead to creativity, to connect into other realms and realities and dimensions through you as an artist. It is really one of the telltale signs that a person is actually in contact with real paranormal and spiritual experiences when they develop some ability to articulate this and share it with the world in some creative way. Now, this is very, very special and extremely powerful for people to work on developing this if this is not something that you have tried to do before. And no matter where you are or whatever type of medium of art is of interest to you, this is such a vital aspect of your work as a spiritual person to allow the creative forces to become part of you literally in your expression as an artist. And it is truly one of our greatest gifts in this world is this ability to have creative expression. And so it is very important that we do not lose this ability within ourselves. So, for example, having the power to create something from nothing, the ability that we have to look at a blank page or canvas and to manifest a vision from coming up with the ideas of where to start and how that unfolds is an incredibly powerful skill that translates directly overall and vice versa into any spiritual practice you're doing because it's all about that visualization process and how we articulate that. AI, for example, is okay to make something quickly, but it does not replace our ability to conceptualize and then literally create this concept from the aether through our own minds, which I would consider to be like a godlike power. So in order to be able to do this, there's obviously ways and techniques, and I'm going to share that with you. I was very lucky in my childhood to be heavily exposed to the arts. So I spent a lot of time visiting museums and art galleries. So I was always around art, as well as my father collected older Japanese illustrations and sculptural works, and my house growing up was filled with these beautiful objects that were very inspiring to me. So when I decided that I wanted to go to university for painting, I had a lot of incredible experiences that helped me learn more about how to get better as an artist, because in school they're not going to talk to you about developing your own personal style. In fact, art schools are very often heavily against people having this concept of a personal style. But through my entire life, even when I was young, they would always say, like, you're too young to have like this much style in your work. You should change it to make it more basic, to make it more normal. But then the style I actually ended up developing is something that people can recognize, and it is why people like my work, because I just practice this same style of work over and over again and learned how to use the tools of painting better. And that is what I just ended up doing. So I didn't really listen to that, and I did my own thing anyway, and that served me quite well. So that's a really important insight that I think I have for people as well, because your own personal style is your creative way of expressing the non-ordinary reality to the world. That's your personal style. So you don't want to make art that looks like everybody else's art. You can be inspired by a whole bunch of things combined together, but finding that own unique style is so important, especially in visionary art aligned with occult and spiritual practice. So that is something to think about, finding your personal style, and that will also help to free you from feeling like your art needs to look in any particular way. Even in all my experiences of doing fine art gallery shows over the years, the level of technical skill between different artists' work is drastic. So you really don't judge art by that. It's very often that the feeling that the piece evokes in a person, and that's something that transcends skill, but intent and practice really helps to refine it. So some first pieces of advice in pursuing these things is, no matter what it is, even if you're playing music or creating art in any other type of way, the idea is to get better over time by allowing yourself to, first of all, practice doing it, but to get inspired and to see the process. So spending time where you can observe other artists that are skilled in the medium that you're interested in and how they do things, so you understand how it works, and then also seeing in real life what the art actually is like. If it's something that isn't ephemeral, if it is like maybe sculptures that you can go and look at and see how they're layered and see what the base is, and have things that are not translated well in photo, by being able to take yourself directly to the art if you can. In visual arts, a really great piece of advice is, if you're trying to make things that come from your mind, first practice illustrating or painting things in real life around you, and then that will make it easier for you to be able to put together things that come from your mind after you practice doing things in real life. And then also taking classes if you can, or watching videos online that teach you about the art, is always going to help you to get better. Don't just assume that you have to just sit down and try to do it a bunch of times without taking any classes to have skills. It's definitely something that I've invested a lot of time learning and practicing, but the classes are not going to teach you really about developing your own personal style. And this is really what separates the people, even in art school, who go to art school and then don't end up continuing to pursue art or don't even have like opportunities with their work. It's because they're just trying to do generic things that everyone's telling them to do, and they aren't developing their own personal style. And that can be fine for the commercial world, but now more than ever, I think there is this big hunger for seeing and experiencing artwork that people are creating because it really is our connection to the source of all information. So now I'm going to get into my top 10 list of the artists that inspired me when I was a teenager, and this will hopefully give you some inspiration as well. I was really mulling over what artists to include in today's particular class because there's just so many incredible artists that have inspired me in my life. So I thought, let's pick the top 10 that I was able to discover when I was 18 to my early 20s that greatly influenced all the work that I was doing to get started in the occult arts. And that was expressed through video and painting and illustration. So before I begin the list of the top 10, I want to give an honorable mention to Renaissance altarpieces because when I was at university, I was able to go to the art gallery whenever I wanted to. And that was really awesome because it was literally like right next to the school. And there was this area that you could sit in where the whole room was an installation of Renaissance altarpieces in beautiful wood with these benches you could sit on and just bask in these extremely potently powerful works of religious art that are super disturbing, often gloomy, very, very heavy energy. And I just loved going into that area of the gallery, sitting on those wooden benches and looking at all the different altar pieces with the gruesome renditions of Christ and all the intricate details, especially in the frames and how the altar pieces are often divided into multiple panels, creating these fascinating scenes that are stories told through a multitude of different pictures that you can look at and experience it all together or find yourself looking just at one area of one panel. So, honorable mention to Renaissance altarpieces. Before I start the list, now I'm doing the list, which is number one, Hieronymus Bosch. His work is incredibly intricate and very powerful at storytelling through elaborate scenes of surrealist strangeness. In this period of time, the artists were typically hired to create religious themed artwork or artwork for noble people and dignitaries. So in older work, this is typically the kind of stuff that survives. I also had heard before that Bosch had even more paintings that were not actually religious themed, but those didn't survive. So I wanted to show you some of my favorites because this was really one of the most influential artists to me as a teenager. The Garden of Earthly Delights is his most famous painting. You can see here that it also has that same kind of altarpiece essence that I love. It is in a triptych where we can have heaven on one side, hell on the other, and then the material realm in the middle. And then another piece that I really wanted to show you is called The Seven Deadly Sins and the Four Last Things. Here he created intricate scenes on this tabletop that each take you through what feels like a portal into its own unique emotion. And also, I wanted to show you the adoration of the Magi. I always found this painting to be really strange, curious, and intriguing to me because of the different expressions on the figures in the painting, as well as the strange essence that comes from the colors that were used and the dramatic shading, as well as this fun details like the beast attacking people in the right panel. The next artist that was of a great influence to me when I was starting in the occult, that I've talked about before on this channel plenty of times, which is Austin Osman Spare. Austin Osman Spare was an incredible artist and chaos magician. He teaches a lot of wonderful principles on how to create automatic writing and automatic drawing in his books. So for people that are interested in his work and being able to channel directly from the essence of spirit in your art, he's really the man for that. And I really, in particular, love his illustrations and his ability to build up figurative elements with these line works coming from the beyond through his hand. He really inspired me, especially in the method of being able to let go and allow the spirit to flow through you to create imagery that is essentially taking the mind into states of samadhi, states of deep concentration and meditation, where other worlds can flow through us. The next artist that inspired me is Marjorie Cameron. She was a wonderful artist as well as an actress in really cool films, and she was very influential not only to the occult art world, but also to her husband, Jack Parsons, who invented rocket fuel. Cameron's artwork does an incredible job of sharing what it looks like to have visions of spirits and other types of entities brought forth into physical manifestation. And her work as an actress also really inspired me because of how her expressive angles and ability to really exemplify these surreal characters in the films she was in, and in a sense almost like being possessed. So she actually ties into the next artist that inspired me, which is the filmmaker Kenneth Anger. These films from Anger are just so wonderful and surreal. They truly take you to a completely different state of mind. One time I spent an entire week just watching his film called Lucifer Rising over and over on repeat to see what would happen. And I definitely went into a trance-like state and made some pretty cool paintings during that period of time. I can't list my top 10 influential artists without the next one which is Alejandro Yarowski, the incredible psychomagical filmmaker that made me want to get into making occult art films in the first place. He has such an incredible itinerary of films under his belt. The one that people in the occult tend to like the most is his prolific film, The Holy Mountain, which is extremely weird and surreal and also very disturbing at times. I don't even want to give away what it's about for people that are interested in it, but my personal favorite film from his is called Santa Sangre. Next, I'm going to talk about Soror Nima. Her art is often shared in occult communities and often without an attribution. So I thought I would show some of her more iconic pieces here. Nima's writing about Mott and nonlinear time was a great influence to me, as well as her occult art shows various spiritual secrets that are often easier to express through the medium of art than even explain through words. The next artist that is on my list that inspired me so much is Linda Florio. Linda Florio was an incredible artist as well as a writer and dancer. She created the Shadow Tarot, which combines the beings from the Goetia with the Qliphoth, and her work in these non-ordinary realities, alien essences, other realms is so incredible. In particular, I loved her use of UV reacted painting as well as her incredible skill in beautiful romantic works. Is just incredible to have been able to have been inspired by her, but also to have been able to have known her online. And her husband sent me some of her paintbrushes after she passed away, which I have been using because he gave them for me to continue using them. And it is something that I didn't talk about, but I figured I can talk about it now while I'm doing the presentation. So I have been using some of her brushes along with mine in the paintings that I've been doing over this past year, and that has been a really incredibly powerful experience for me because when we are inspired by powerful people, that also helps give us access to visions beyond the ordinary, just like going to powerful and inspiring places. The next artist on the list is Zitislav Biskinsky. He created some just absolutely lush combinations of darkness and color, showcasing otherworldly architectures, dimensions, occult creatures. In particular, my favorite work from him are his portals, where there's just these gorgeous layers of luminescence. And I can just sit and stare at these pieces forever and getting lost. Getting close now to the end of our list is Wayne Barlow. Wayne Barlow's work, especially his Inferno series, depicting demons and hellscapes, tremendously inspired me. These beings and sigils, I just love Wayne Barlow's work so much. And then wrapping up the list H.R. Geiger. This is another wonderful example of personal style and how his experiences in life also have a spiritual level that he depicts through the artwork. And his gothic biomechanical beings are just so iconic and so inspiring. I was lucky enough to be part of an exhibit that featured his art when I was 24, and it was really, really cool to be part of that. I'll put a picture up of me next to his art. And amazing, amazing, amazing art. So that is our tour of inspiration of the artists that inspired me when I was first getting into the occult. And so you can see the art that I create is inspired by my energy being influenced by the energy of all these other wonderful artists. So you can take yourself on a journey of what are all the things that inspired you and use that to help find your own personal style. You don't need to try to make one, it just happens over time. And so the way that the spirits help me to see in other realms and develop my personal style in particular changed when I began to do spirit evocation, because then I was giving myself the ability to actually see spirits in physical form after studying how to conjure spirits, how to do ritual magic. So, especially when I first started practicing with the Ars Goetia and conjuring demons and seeing what it looks like to have these entities appear before me in otherworldly essences, in things that are very difficult to describe in physical form, but I could get a glimpse of it and then take my mind back to that place to recreate it through artwork. And then I started to have a lot of really incredible occult and paranormal experiences, both from my intended work in conjuring spirits and entities, but then also the things that were happening to me from my contact from other dimensional alien entities that would appear around me and literally tell me, I have to make art here. I have to show people these other worlds. So when I was very young, I started using my imagination, drowning out the sound of my parents screaming at each other with some heavy music, and I would go into a deep trance-like state and pull out these like hideous, freaky monsters, and I would draw them on the back of my posters from my bedroom wall to use as paper. And I would sometimes use like my mom's old lipstick samples as a way to have some other materials. So I had more art supplies to use because the art I was doing was so disturbing that my parents didn't really want to encourage me to do it at first because it was very creepy. But then they realized that it was good for me to pursue artwork. So they really, really encouraged it. And I was able to go to art schools through my life that taught me a lot about how to do life drawing, painting in still life, how to learn about shadows and how they fall. And then in my own life, extending from there, I try to be around creative people so I can see how they do their process and we can learn from one another. Now, of course, you don't want to watch how someone does something and then just copy them. And unfortunately, it happens to people all the time. It's definitely happened to me. But you want to find, like I said, your own personal, unique style, because that is the spiritual world communicating through you. And the more you do spiritual work and see into spiritual realms through other things that you're doing, you will have the ability to start initiating those experiences when you look at a blank piece of paper, when you pick up your guitar, when you grab that ball of clay in your hand, whatever it is that is calling to you. It gets better over time. You just have to start somewhere. But what really matters is this is the creative force's way of coming through us. And the more spiritual work you do in developing your visualization abilities, so even doing things like visualization exercises on your chakras or in meditation, where you're visualizing and holding your visualization on a sigil, all these things of developing the ability to visualize something will then transcend into your ability to look at your medium of art and then just start visualizing things. And then, of course, you can say invocations or incantations or listen to some inspiring music or whatever it is that is the way that you find even more inspiration and add that into your process. So the way that the spirits and demons helped me to see other realms was through my ability to see them, and then also my ability that grew over time of when you are in a meditation or ritual setting and the spirit is communicating to you, it is not something that you can usually just hear with your ears like someone talking to you. It will be something that comes through in what's known as the mind's eye. So through the mind's eye, you have visions, or you might hear something or see something like a picture or a scene. And it is that same type of experience that you want to activate in yourself when you're approaching your artwork. The same way where you're allowing yourself to be open to the forces that are communicating around you in a spiritual setting, we take that into the art. And then you can also, of course, take the art itself into a spiritual setting and start it there, whatever you're feeling called to do. And it's just such an important and powerful thing for people to work on. So I definitely hope that this inspires you and gives you some ideas. If you have heard of any of these artists that I talked about today, please let me know in the comments of this video. If you would like to reach me for any of my spiritual services, I work as a tarot reader. I also have a lot of classes that teach about spirit conjuring and developing your psychic abilities, and all of that stuff can be found linked below in the description of this video. Thank you so much to all of my channel members and my patrons. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you're new, and please hit like. It really helps the channel grow so much, and I'll see you next time.